1, 2, 1, 2. How about that? I think that's showing now. Hi, Jeff. Hey. See. Says Sacred. Hello. Hello, everyone. I better put my phone on silent, hadn't I? Do we have piano? Hey. Good stuff. Right, what was I doing? Needs to go away. That way. Bear with. How is everyone? My God, this delay is long. Jeff's on a fire stick. Unlucky, mate. Unlucky. Oh, no. Hello, David. Oh, just started watching this week. Welcome. Hello. Thank you very much. New James. Nostradamus. Hello. Blake. Hello, Blake. How is your Sundays? Lars. Oh, hello, Lars. Welcome back. Yes, New James. What I was planning on doing is... because I've been so busy and I've not managed to do those midweek noteworthies like I was hoping to do more of. I was planning on tackling a bit of the list because that's getting rather large now. So I've got a couple lined up here. I'm just downloading them as we speak. Yeah. Beat and Delete, great name. Welcome, sir. Or Sir S. Not that it matters. Actually, it does matter. We need more women in music production, don't we? But all are welcome. Apart from the Korg one, Piano 16. What great piano house for music? Any combinations you recommend? Yeah, Piano layering is actually a tough one, you know. Not as straightforward as you might think. So here's a little known fact that I'm sure many newcomers won't know. So pianos aren't actually in tune. Did you know this? Calvin Harris, thinking about you. I shall put that on the list. Mr. James, yes. It's in. What was I saying? Pianos, yes. So it turns out pianos are not in tune. They're what's called stretch tuned. You know when you play a non-acoustic instrument like a synth, and the current standard is that hi Chung, hi. So the current standard of tuning is A vibrates at 440 times a second, right? 440 hertz. And because of our Chinese mathematician friend back in, what was it, 1684? I've already done a video on this. I've forgotten the date already. He figured out how to divide all the notes equally so that what we call equal temperament tuning. So an octave is literally half the vibration. So an octave below middle A at 440 vibrates at 220 times a second. Yes, Phil, you're up next. You're definitely next on the list. So that's what we're going to do today. I was going to do Essel. Yeah, I've just literally downloaded that one. We're going to have a look at it now. Going in blind might be a bad idea. Let's see. So yeah, pianos. Right, okay. I turned on Do Not Disturb on my phone, and it's not working at all. 1 second. Try again. Right. So piano tunings. Yeah, it turns out because pianos have such a complex harmonic structure, if you try and tune an octave at exactly double the frequencies, it doesn't sound in tune. Which is why piano tuners are a business, because you need someone with a very specific ear that can hear the vibrations, the minute vibrations between all the harmonics. And when you tune a piano, you actually have to tune it. I think they start at concert pitch around middle C, or they might tune the A to 440, I'm not sure. But then as you go up, pianos actually get sharper and sharper and flatter as they go down the octaves. So pianos are not tuned like any other instrument. They're stretch tuned. And each piano is different because those harmonic vibrations actually depend on the length of the strings. And of course, when you're dealing with a sampled piano, it depends on the piano that was sampled. So when you try to layer two pianos together, you get a chorus effect. It sounds like they've been detuned, which instantly gives you like 90s, because everything in the 90s had chorus on it, right? So if you don't want 90s vibes, don't layer your pianos. Hi, Dolly. Hi. Welcome. But having said that, your best free options right now. Who asked the questions? It was David, right? Hi, David. Yeah. So apart from the chord game one, what would you layer? In terms of free, the Micro Piano by Meat Beats is a good one. I'll show you both. So here's what an M1 sounds like. You'll have to forgive my playing. There's a lot of latency when I'm streaming live. And it puts me off. 1, 2, 1, 2. Sorry, I'm just checking my headphone level. Yeah, it's okay. We'll do that. Yeah, throws my timing right off. But that's the M1. This is the micro piano. It's supposed to be a famous Akai sample that did the rounds back in the day. Different kind of vibe. Lasts a bit longer, a little bit brighter. But held notes are a little bit weird on it. Which is typical for back in the day. They didn't have the memory to sample long notes, so they had to kind of loop a section. And that's where you get that really weird bit in the middle as it's trying to hold on. It's looping somewhere. But it's a good layer to the M1 because it kind of does the opposite things. The M1's very spiky. A lot of attack, not a lot of sustain. This is kind of a lot of sustain. So them two are a good layer, especially if you're on a budget. Definitely want the 90s vibes. Yeah, can you hear the chorusing between those two? You can hear it there. Let me show you piano its own. That kind of phasey. Let me just throw a chorus on so we can refresh our ears to what that. That's like an extreme example. We put that about 10% something. Oops. Not too far off. There's some of that in there. Obviously the tone changes, but you also get that detune effect. It's unavoidable when layering pianos. Do I have a favourite key? Great question. No. My favourite key, well, you know what my favourite key is because I do every video in it. My favourite key is A minor, because even if I don't play it back in A minor, then you don't have to remember any scales. And no one wants to go back to school, right? We don't have to remember scales anymore. That strange keyboard pattern's done it all for us. So, no. I'm a thorough believer in all keys being equal because mathematically they are equal. Jamie has answered Dorian, but that's not a key. That's a scale. Now, even I might be guilty of mixing those up sometimes. But key is your starting note, your center, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. Scale is your major, minor, Dorian, Phrygian. Well, technically, they call. See, I don't agree with this. This goes back to the classical teachings, which I'm trying to kind of ignore for the purposes of teaching dance music, which I presume is why you're all here. They call Dorian a mode, along with Phrygian and Locrian and Lydian and Mixolydian. They're all modes, but I don't agree. They're all scales. They're just scales because they're just rules of 7 notes, right? They're all just 7 notes rules. Modes are just scales with different names, fancy names. That's all they are. D minor, saddest of all keys. Tell me if you know the reference. Possibly the funniest film ever made. I'll give you a minute. No one? D minor is the saddest of all keys. Actually, if you were more of a dance guy and not a rock guy... Ooh! Life of Brian's a good shout. Not quite, no. There we go. Beat and delete's got it. Beat and delete's got it. It goes to 11. Also, the same origin of that meme. Spinal Tap. If you've never seen it, my God, you have to watch that. Even if you're not into rock bands. I think that was the first ever mockumentary I saw. So when I first watched it, I thought it was real. Until it got so ridiculous that it couldn't be. F minor is great for bass. Yeah, I don't know if you saw my video on optimal keys for bass. Now, things might have improved since I last went to a club. But not a lot of speakers get below kind of 35 hertz live. So, or in the studio. My sub in the good studio apparently goes down to 20, but it's really, really weak down there. And that's a luxury. Most people don't have that. So anywhere between E and B, I think, is kind of a great pocket for bass. If it's a bass-centric genre like techno. Although some techno tracks just rumble, don't they? You don't even need a key. When you're doing the real underground stuff. Right, I'm rambling. I think we've got a few in here now. Let's grab Phil's track. Essel. One second. Live stream. Let's put a date on this. 26th. By the way, top tip. Put a date on everything you ever save as a file. Never, ever, ever, ever label it final or new. Because I promise you, you will end up with 50 versions of a track all called new and final. And then no one knows which one's which. So just date them. Let's put a number on the file. I've had that system for... I think I was the first person to ever do it in my circles, and everyone thought it was genius. Just adding a date to the file suddenly made me a million times more organized than any of my peers. Right, there we go. Are we downloading? Are we downloading? It's here. Right, let's have a look. What do we have? Essel, forgive me. Phil, is this the correct mix? Wasn't a remix, was it? I've not written that down. Beat and delete, yeah. Is this the one? Mr. Phil? Mr. Waterman? Excuse the slurping. I've got a brew in hand, obviously. You can't start a track without a brew. These are the rules. Club mix, yep. My word, I've just seen how far behind the stream is, so apologies for gaps in catching up to you guys. I don't know if that's normal, if every stream is the same delay. I know in gaming terms it's to stop people from stream sniping, right? So I don't know if that is a standard or if that's something I can adjust. Right, let's have a look at tempo. We are 125 apparently. Let's check further down the track, make sure it's not a vinyl recording. Yeah, if you've ever had a track you can't pinpoint the tempo of because it keeps drifting, that's because it was probably ripped from vinyl or tape. If you've ever wondered. But the fact that this is bang on, we know it was digital start to finish. So, right, key. Where is my tuning fork? So that's a G. Yes. 1, 6, 7, 4. Yep, 1, 6, 7, 4. Doom, 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 doom. Iron Brew. No, not Iron Brew. I'm not Scottish. And I still have all my teeth. Cup of tea. The more polite English people say. And then the further you get up north, the more they say, I'm having a brew. Right, I can hear. Did any of you ever see, I don't know if it was a short. It's one of my earlier videos called the one chord trick. I'm hearing that here. 1674. Hello, David. So, are you new to chord numbers? Right. Okay. Well, I've done a video on it. Let's do a quick recap, just in case anyone else in the chat needs to be brought up to speed. Jeff's a brew guy, yes. Right, chord numbers, very simple. So you'll probably see them in more traditional terms displayed as Roman numerals. Again, I'm trying to simplify things by getting rid of all the Greek, German, Italian, and Latin language out of music, because I don't see why you need to learn 5 languages to be able to communicate musical ideas. Bit of a bee in my bonnet about my classical upbringing there. But yeah, for dance music, entirely irrelevant anyway. Why don't we just use numbers? We say them as numbers anyway. So let me show you. For example, here is our scale of A minor, right? The first A, B, C, D, E, F, G, first 7 notes of the alphabet, 7 letters of the alphabet is the scale of a minor scale in A, right? And it just means note 1 is A, note 2 is B, note C is 3, note C is 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, there's 7 notes in a scale. Most scales have 7 notes. That's our rules. Chord 1 is simply the chord you build upon note 1. So this is a 1. Does that make sense? Do you know how to build chords, David? Yeah, right. So it just means the chord that's built upon that note of the scale. So when I say 1, 6, for example, sorry, this would be 5, sorry. What did I say? I said it was a 1, 6, 7, 1, right? So this is note 1. Let's go next bar. So this would be, we know it's a 4 bar progression. So 6 would be F, 7 would be G, 4 is D. In the case of A, I know we're in G. I'm just I always use A as an example so we can correct the white notes without having to learn the minor scale like this. Now we know 1, 6, 7, 4 in A minor. Sorry, I forgot to say, yeah, it's G minor, by the way, this track. So if you wanted the chords, you could just go down 2. Now we're in G minor. I don't have to worry about remembering the G minor scale. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to transpose -2 so we don't get confused by any non-white notes, right? I'm going to do it that way. Let's get a rhythm in. I'll explain what the 1 chord trick is in a minute. So first we're on the 1 and then we're we're here. I said we're in G and now I'm confusing myself. Ba. That one is not syncopated. Syncopated means in between the 8th notes, by the way. If you watch my video on piano house rhythm. Then we have a gap. I'll repeat this theme here. Okay, and that goes round. So this is 7, and then we put this on 4. Okay. I'm going to loop this section. Turn our click off. Everyone got sound and music, by the way? Cool. Thank you, Blake. Right. Let's have a listen. One thing I am going to do is just EQ out a ton of bottom end, because they have. Obviously making room for a bass part to come in at some point. I don't know, I've not heard the track yet. Just latching onto this riff. Cool, thank you. Hello to Mean Deep, welcome. Right, so I can hear a melody on the top already. I can hear some common tones as well, I think. Right, so our top melody starts on a B, goes to a C. That's notes 2 and 3 of our scale. Not that octave. That one. I'm hearing that. And then the same again, but on the new rhythm. That one's down. And then that, we've landed on note 1 for chord 4. What are the notes in between? That is the question. Let's have a deeper dive. Just going to separate the stereo from the mono, see if I can hear any clearer. That might be an open fifth at the end. I don't think I can hear any minor or major or seventh or anything in there. Come back to that. Nope, stereo doesn't make a difference. That's not helped us. Let's listen to left versus right. Aha, right's a bit better. This is the other annoying thing you might find with pianos. And it's another reason the M1's very successful, by the way. When they first started making digital pianos, obviously the aim was realism. Obviously the technology wasn't there, but the first time you heard an M1 or anything, any sampler-based instruments, the Roland D50 was another one. Anything that involved samples was a revelation back then. That was the closest they'd got to anything that sounded like an acoustic instrument. Because synthesis alone just can't get there until very recently with the likes of Pianotech, things like that. So one of the things they did to make it sound more realistic was pan all the low notes to the left and then pan them further right as you go up the keyboard, as if you were sat behind a real piano, because obviously the shorter strings are on the right, the long strings are on the left. So, but it's really annoying when you're trying to make music, and especially club music. You don't want the, like, did you hear the melody got stronger when we listened to the right channel? Here. Versus here. It's subtle, but some pianos are really bad for it. Yeah, all your high notes end up being in the right speaker, so you have to put them in mono and then do the fake stereo trick with the thing I showed in my M1 Piano House sound video, the Stereo Touch, this thing here. The half delays. Right, anyway, so that, I could hear a harmony to that, which is 4/5. I'm hearing that underneath. These notes. So that fills out our chord now. We've got note 1, note 5, note 3. So there's our triad. I presume we're going to repeat that. That would make dance sense. And because we moved to chord 6, that now gives us This is a seventh of the chord, because our sixth chord would be built like this. Obviously we're voiced with the 3 at the top. This is our melody. That's very common. Fastest way to a simple melody, put the third of the chord at the top in your voicing. Always a good tip. I thought I'd done that in a melody video, but I don't think I have. Now, in terms of chord sense, I would expect this to go down now, because this would be 1, 3 and 5 of chord 7. Yeah, there's something else going on. I think I'm hearing the 9th. What's that one? Is that still? Oh, right, okay. No, we've got 9th here. So that's what I was hearing. Right. Whoops. I'll move these somehow. Okay. There's still not the full picture, I don't think. But those are definitely in there. Yeah, this is the 9th of chord 4. This would be 1, 5, and 9. So far, it's what we call an add 9 chord. If it was extended on top of a 7th, then it's no longer added. You just call that a 9th chord. But when it's on its own, it's added for some reason. Musical terminology. Weird. While I'm on that rant, did you know major 7th doesn't refer to the fact that the chord is major? It refers to the fact that the 7th bit is a major 3rd above the 5th. It's nonsense. I don't like musical language. Because you can have a minor major chord, right? Which is a minor chord with a major 7th on top. So the major 7th bit isn't anything to do with the fact that the chord is major. It's to do with the fact that the 7th bit is major. So if you ever wonder why I don't dive too hard into chord names, it's because it's nonsense. Right. Basically, some stoned Berkeley students from the jazz class got together and wrote a book. And it makes about as much sense as you would think a book written by stoned jazz students makes. So it's pretty comprehensive. It's all in there. But it's not got much rhyme or reason. And those became the standard chord names that most people refer to. Right, what else have we got? Na, 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 na. That is a 7th. I'm hearing that, I think. Confirm. Yes, that's not moving. Does it stay? It does. Do, 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 do. Ooh, something changes. Doom, 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 doom. That's crunchy. Something's going on there that I can't quite detect yet. But that G doesn't join until there. Because I'm hearing this melody. Doom, 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 doom. And I'm pretty sure... Is that... Yeah, so... Pretty sure that's our last voicing. Monsieur Mohammed, hello, welcome. We're doing a breakdown of Essel Forgive Me Club Mix, diving into the MIDI of this piano house riff. Ooh, what is going on there? That third bar is pretty interesting. I need to figure out if there's anything else in the lower chord that might be confusing me. I think there is an octave in the bass. And they've put the fifth in as well, the low fifth. Okay, I think this is our voicing. Our sound's a bit bright compared to there. Let's back off that Meat Beats layer. So I presume they've done that for the whole thing. I can hear that in there. That sounds like the fifth. Yes. Yeah. So I think we've got this all the way through. So is this in here? The fifth of this one? And this is going to be too low for fifth. This isn't in here, right? This would be very mucky. Ooh. I wonder if they get... They might have got away with that, actually. Can't hear it in there, though. I'm not even sure that's in there. It would make sense for it to be. You don't want a chord full of too many things that aren't the root note, because it becomes very unstable, very kind of top heavy. When you're voicing a chord, obviously you can use more of this. You can use multiples of the same note, but if you use too many of the third of the chord or too many of the fifth, you end up with a very weak sounding top heavy chord. So it would make sense for them to have an extra bass octave here to support the fact that we've got 2/5 on our on the chord 4 here. I can't quite hear it though. Actually, now we've got the melody. Let me swap to the left speaker where we can hear more of the low notes. Yeah, I'm hearing it, which is the octave of that G. Am I right? Yeah. Pretty sure that last one's finished. So we've just got the mystery of what's causing the crunch on chord 4. Because that's too pure on mine. Ah, I can hear it. double check this. Checking if there's any more exposed piano sections, but no. Right, for these two notes, they keep the E. No, I think that's an E, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's the crunch I was hearing. So that's pure common tone right there, because an E isn't a logical choice for this G chord here. This would make this a 6. 6 are, say that again, 6ths are very rare. Well, not in jazz, but and they drop it for the last, so it sounds like this is the movement. Basically a common tone melody. Just a bit of tension. Excuse me. I suppose it's acting like a suspension. Normally you would suspend this like this. You take the third of the chord and hang it on the fourth or the second. Like that. Kind of delay resolving it. There's a trick you'll hear quite a bit. But they've chosen to do it with the 6 resolving to the 1. Fair enough. Fair enough. Anything else in there? I thought there might be a 9. Oh! I think there's either an extra one here or it's this. That one. Excuse me. No, 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 no. Okay. Nice little inner melody there. No, 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 no. Very cool. Pretty sure that's everything I can hear. And is it dropping this? Oh, let's take our... Oh, what do you know? I hadn't heard this track when I made the house basslines video, but they're doing exactly what I showed in the video. The octave, skip, and gap fill. Yeah. What a coincidence. Great time to talk about that. Let's grab a quick bass noise. Do I have any FM basses? I think that's a bit. It's like a. Well, That's pretty good. Something like that. Remind me to put this patch in the cloud if you like it. So our bass line, let's first of all, we start with the low notes of the piano, right? Let's change color for clarity's sake. And we know we're in G minor, we have to transpose -2. Looks like we're an octave lower than this. Ooh, unless the D's too low. No, they go down, right, so what's happening there is we've got an octave skip here, filling this gap. One here. One here. There we go. That's their bass line. Any changes? There's that miss beat one trick I mentioned in the how to drop video, where the drums are delayed by a beat. I think they actually drop that way as well. Yeah. Aha, we got some break chords variation here. Wow, I've just seen how far the stream is behind. I'm just making the bass sound. That's insane. That's like a minute, isn't it? Before I press on, I'm just going to take this opportunity to ask, is everyone up to speed? Anyone want me to go over anything? I'm just kind of, I've gone into MIDI mode and just cracked on. Johnny's good. Good. So is my microphone ahead of my screen? Or do those line up? Can anyone confirm? if I was to count myself in to play a note, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I had it on mute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do those kind of line up? Blake says yes. Right, so I think my visual feedback is just really delayed. Okay. Oh, wicked. Right. Let's look at this verse thingy piano. By the way, if you're like new to making arrangements and you don't know what to do for your breakdown sections, like your verses, it's no more difficult than just take the first note of your chord, plonk it on the bar, and extend it. You can put a filter over it. If you want. I'm not saying that's what they've done here, but if you're new, that's a great way to calm things down for your verse vocals or break, or before you get back into the riff. Common arrangement trick. Having said that, what actually have they done? Oh, okay. They've changed up the progression slightly. We're holding 7 instead of going to 4. So 7's now at the top. We go early. One-eighth early. Actually, no, it's not the 7th at the top. It's the 5th. And now this is the voicing. Oh, our G goes early as well, doesn't it? Well, it's really an F in the real key. That's a pure 5th. Something's crunching here, which I've not got yet. Our first chord is a suspended 4th. Yeah. And something's going on with our chord 6 here in the break. Can't quite hear what they've done. Is it a 9th? Ooh, it's not clear. Is it a 6th? Or the 6th? It is. It's a 6th. It's probably just lower in volume because they wanted the melody to be the 5ths of all the chord there. But that's the crunch I can hear there. Interesting. last one we do go back to 4. And it's the same voicing as this without the top note, I think. Yep, I think that's right. Yeah. Right. That's our breakdown. Hello, Vinny. No worries, man. It's all going to... I think it automatically uploads it on the live tab. Don't worry. We're going over... I'm catching up on what was supposed to be the Noteworthy series, where I broke down tracks you requested, because I've not had time in the midweeks like I thought I would. So I thought the live stream would be a great excuse. And up to date is Essel by Forgive Me was next on the list. Phil's request. This riff. Actually, I didn't go over the one chord trick. I was going to mention the one chord trick. And this suspended chord here. Whoops. My bass line's stuck in there for some reason. Yeah, it gives me a great excuse to go over the one chord trick. Right, so. By the way, all chime in. Yeah, the live stream automatically uploads, Alexander. Yeah. Although they've kind of changed the format. If you go to my channel, it's no longer with the main videos. You have to go across to the live tab. There's now videos, shorts, live, and a couple of others. So the live streams are automatically uploaded to the live tab. So it's all going to be there. So for anyone who didn't see the one chord trick video, it's a bad name. Because I don't mean there's only one chord trick. I mean all the tricks you can do with chord 1, if that makes sense. Right, so the one chord trick is this. You'll find a hell of a ton of... I'm just going to program a random bunch of chords in here. That classic rhythm, right? Doesn't matter what the rhythm is. Let me just throw a kick drum in. My word, there's a lot of samples. That will do. That sounds like a 909 or something. In you go. Four on the floor. That's just for timing reference, because click tracks are annoying. So yeah, the one chord trick, doesn't matter whether it's Faithless, what's another good one? Offshore, by Chicane, Prodigy, No Good. You name it. There's a million classic dance riffs that use this one chord trick. So we know this is our chord 1, standard makeup. Doesn't matter what the voicing is. The principle is, if you don't know what a suspended chord is, by the way, it's when you take the middle note of the chord, in its traditional triad form, that is. Has to be in this voicing for it to be the middle note. Basically, note 3. 1, 2, 3. You take this, and if you only put that on note 2 or note 4, that's called a suspension. So this would be a suspended 4th. This is a suspended 2nd. And the reason they're called that is because this middle note is the crucial note of the chord. It tells you what type of chord it is. In this case, this is a minor chord. If it was 1 up, this would be a major chord. So the third note, this note 3, is the indicator of what type of chord it is. When you leave that out, this is called a 5th chord. So that's an open 5th chord. There's no major or minor about it. Guitarists use it a lot. Mostly because minors and majors sound terrible through distortion. And guitars use a lot of distortion. Anyway, the point is, if you are staying away from that third as either a minor or a major, this sound, when it's suspended on a different note, the 2 or the 4, it wants to resolve to its natural state, be it the minor or the major. So this sounds unresolved. It's suspended. It's creating suspense. And we can resolve it at some point. Okay, things like that. And that's a trick you see done on a lot of classic dance riffs. Playing around with suspending the note 3 of the chord. Sorry, it's note 3 of the scale, not note 3 of the chord, really. It's a third up from the root. This being the root. I suppose, because it's not always note 3 of the scale if you're on a different chord, right? So it's called the third because it's a third away from the root. Anyway, yeah, when you play around with suspensions like that, you create lots of classic dance riffs. And sometimes they also play around with the root changing to the 7th, like this. It's like a harmony to this. You can still keep the 1 on the bottom as your bass line. That doesn't have to move because it just creates an extension, right? If you look at the 1 chord, this just becomes the 7th. This becomes the 9th. So, like I say, Chicane's Offshore, classic dance riff. Prodigy, No Good. Faithless. What is a Faithless riff? Insomnia. Obviously, it doesn't sound anywhere near as iconic without the pluck. I've blanked because we've been listening to the other. 1 second. Oh, it's come to me. Dun, 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 dun. Let's just do a couple of bars. So Faithless Insomnia starts on the suspended 4th. and then does the suspended second. And then does that back up. I think it goes here as well at one point. They play around with. I don't even think the fifth is in that chord on the Faithless one. It's just those two notes, because that's all you need to imply the chord. You don't need the fifth, as long as you've got the root and this relationship here is what determines major minor, like I said earlier. So yeah, that's what I call the one chord trick, playing around with suspensions. And I think at one point Faithless also goes to the seventh. So that's a one chord trick. You can see that happening here. Now our voicing's a lot bigger, but if you just take this top section here, remember here's our bass note A. They're playing around with the suspended second, resolving to the normal third. They've done both, in fact, because we have the fourth as a harmony to the second. I'll put that up the octave. You'll be able to see a little bit more clearly what's going on here. But that's just voiced down. So that's note 4. That's a suspended fourth, resolving to the fifth. We've got a droning seventh. That's kind of, like I said, we can use a seventh in there, no problem. And they've kept that exact riff while changing to note 6 in the bass, because that just creates a nice fruity chord 6. So F now becomes F9. Here's our F chord. This now makes a seventh. The fifth of the last chord now makes the seventh of chord 6 here. And now here's our ninth. What was the seventh of chord 1 is now the ninth of chord 6. And they've just kept this motif going here. Even if this clashed and was kind of this chord here, even if this makes no sense harmonically, doesn't really matter, because it's a passing note, right? It's not there for very long. Whoops. So let me bring up this. Yep. So it's effectively a chord 7 over notes, over bass note 6. Sounds alright, but it's a bit weird. But the fact that it's not there for very long means it's not a problem. The fact that it's a hook that repeats here is more important than the fact that it actually fits harmonically. See how quick we're off that? Tension release, tension release. Suspension, resolve, suspension, resolve. Same here. This random sixth sat on our chord 7 here, that gets resolved. It gets double resolved. We have a 6, they have a little ninth in there, and then we go back to the normal chord. This is just a triad with a big voicing. So lots of suspensions and now our last chord is entirely suspended, if you will, because it's this chord. It's these 3 notes. Here's our bass note. I called it an add 9 earlier, didn't I? I've actually made a mistake there. I was expecting to hear, at some point while I was working out this chord, I was expecting to hear the rest of the chord in there at some point, which would make this an add 9th. Because this would be 1, 3, 5, miss 7, add 9. But it turns out they never actually fully voiced the chord with the minor in there. Not needed. They've gone for, this is a suspended second chord, and it never resolves. Why? It sounds cool. Here's how it would sound, hypothetically, in the universe where they resolved it to the minor chord. It's all right. But maybe they preferred the fact we don't have resolving it brings in this F, which we've not had in the upper voicings yet. Maybe they thought that sounded like it drew too much attention to itself, and I presume the common tone drone of this E, which lasts for most of the riff, that's probably more important to the modern house vibes, because as we saw in the common tone video, that's certainly around a lot right now. So absolutely fine for that to sit on the suspended second there of the D chord, our chord 4. Well, technically it's a C chord in real life. We are -2, aren't we? So yeah, very interesting stuff. So what they've done for the break, are there any vocals in the break? No. Well, ambient vocal. Oh, sorry, Lars, I missed that. Thank you. No problem. I'll catch you on the replay. Thanks very much for popping by. Yeah, so what there's no vocal to fit against here, because that's a consideration. Most vocal melodies are going to, well, strong, doesn't have to be a vocal melody, sorry, lead melodies, lead hooks. Most strong lead melodies and hooks will base themselves around the root of the key and the chord as well. So you would find most strong melodies would be using, in the case of A minor, the A, C, and the E. So as a musician, this is a risky chord to place, or trying to fit a vocal to after the fact is going to be harder. Very tense chord, this, as is this. Very crunchy, fruity, whatever you want to call them. This one's fine. This is just an open fifth, as we said, we called them earlier. Thank you, Purple Dolphin. Great. Great name. So this is an open fifth, no third or anything in there. It's just the 1 and the 5 of the chord. Power chord, as they're sometimes known by guitarists. But yeah, so the reason they're crunching here is because they can get away with it. There's no... Either they couldn't fit a vocal to it, or they didn't want to fit a vocal to it. I don't think it's any coincidence that there's no major vocals over this section. Because a vocalist trying to suspend notes in the melody would sound a bit weird. You don't create many natural melodies this way with suspensions as part of the kind of root chord. So this entire section is just to kind of crunch and build some different harmony, some different tensions than what the main riff is. So then we can resolve, I presume, like I say, I don't know this track. I'm skipping through it. I presume this is our riff back in here. Oh, okay. Yes, it is. It's filtered. I thought it was the bass coming in, but yeah. So now we have the crunchy suspended things resolving back to our riff, which obviously has some mini suspensions in there, but on the whole, it doesn't. We're playing mostly chords. Whoops, I've left that harmony explanation in there. Let me remove that before I forget. Oops, our arrangement is changing their arrangement, but we get the idea. Suddenly the faithless riff has come in. Oh, that was where my loop was. I think I can hear a string layer coming in now. Or a synth. Yeah, I think that's strings. There's a common layer. Speaking of layers, I keep getting asked about layers. We were talking about it earlier. Was it David? So here's a common trick. See, the trap most people fall into regarding layers is they think their sound is too weak. So they compensate by trying to add more to it. And that's the first trap, because layers cause a lot of frequency problems regarding the mix later on down the line. Phase problems, tuning problems, like I said, with pianos. Well, tuning out of tune is a form of phase problem, right? So if that's not desirable, layering a piano is a nightmare. The correct way to layer IMO is it's just purely for aesthetics. It's not to solve a problem. So what we have here is, I'm just going to bring up what's a good I think Labs has got a good free Labs. Let's load you. If I remember rightly, there's a strings. Let's have a look. Most of this atmospheric stuff. The main string ensemble, I think, is pretty snappy. The problem with strings is they don't have a lot of attack usually, because alright, that'll do for now. It's getting key. Let me turn the release down. Let's shorten our notes. Something like that. Just because the release on that sound is so long. So strings versus piano is a classic layer because they're not really interfering that much. And strings being an acoustic instrument also, they're not naturally purely in tune. I just need something thin and that kind of thing's probably fine. It's all panned left, which is very annoying. Whoops. Come on. I'll try and even that out. So why are we layering strings to our piano? Because you notice in the early parts of their track, there isn't a string layer. This is an arrangement decision. It's not to compensate for the fact that this piano isn't strong enough. It is, because they're relying on it for the rest of the track. This is an arrangement decision to pick up the second drop, so you get even more energy before the track leaves. Very common practice to have your second drop more active, more energy, higher energy than your first. So I think we've got basically strings fading in, or probably filtering in with the rest. I think they were filtering in actually, because I could hear them quite early, but they weren't. It wasn't obvious what they were, which is probably what I'm hearing. Something like that. So yeah, strings make sense as a layer for hype purposes. Another good trick you can do with them as well is add another one. You probably only need the top notes. No need to confuse these muddy bass notes, but we can go up the octave. Maybe you could add that halfway through the chorus, something like that. That's a common thing. Very Pridsy. Prids loves his string octaves. Or that could be a string-like synth, which would be, I'll give you an example. You just take a sawtooth, add a ton of unison voices that are out of tune. Classic kind of trance vibe. That kind of noise. Let me put some note length back in, actually. So that's nowhere near as loud. Will also work for extra hype. And in fact, behind the layers, you won't even be able to hear whether that's a synth or a string. Ooh. I've done something to offend my CPU. It just went mental for a reason. Is that me trying to record in OBS and do too much at the same time? I don't know. Some days computers behave, sometimes they don't. What else have we got? Percussion part has been tuned to notes 7 and 5. FDD, FDD, FDD. Where's my piano? You can hear the percussion that's been tuned. If you ever hear that noise, by the way, and you don't know what it is, those are the toms on the old 808s. That's how they sounded. Oh, there might be the congas. Ableton's got one built in, hasn't it? And they're tunable. Yeah, it's the congas. Why are you so quiet? Just that pattern by the looks of it. You've got to tune them by ear though. Close enough for jazz. I don't think the tuning on the original goes far enough. No, that's a major seventh. So that means they've used not an original 808, but who cares? Just throw that single tom into a sampler and pitch it how you want. Yeah, 7th and 5th on the percussion. Any other notes? Oh, if you don't know, not all percussion is tuned, by the way. Until you get an ear for pitch, this is very hard to learn, but these things play notes. You can kind of hear a note to that, whereas a clap, there's no note to that. That's just noise. Kosh, 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 kosh. Right? I'm only saying this as a PSA because I saw a channel on YouTube tuning his claps based on the root note that his tuner was telling him the clap was. Like, you know, if you add a tuner, this is going to try and have a guess at. No, actually, it's not going to have a guess at that one. See, that will. Okay, so it won't grab the... Whatever tuner he had was trying to give him the key of his clap, and he was trying to make that in key with his music. So he wasn't using his ears, or he just didn't know, you know. It takes time to be able to detect pitch, I suppose. But, yeah, just so you know, most drums don't have pitch. Some kicks do. See my video on whether you should tune your kicks or not. That explains a lot about whether kicks have pitch or not, because some don't. Yes, but if you don't try and tune everything, unless it's actually a musical note you need to tune. Anything else? This is sounding a bit messy. What's going on here? Don't like this noise channel. There we go. Yeah, I think we covered all the main elements of that. No additions musically for the drop there. The second half pickup is like extra percussion and a ride cymbal as far as I can hear. Yeah. Let me just mute my things. Nice filter sweep there. Ah, there might be an ARP in there, you know. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. You know, live streams are actually a little bit easier for me, in the sense that I don't have to plan a video and script and all that kind of things. Because I'm so bad at making videos, it takes me ages right now. I spent a good like day and a half on the script because I'm obsessed with trying to make it concise and easy to present without being too complicated. And it also needs to have a theme on, you know, it needs to solve a problem at least, not just something I like to talk about. So there's lots of factors that go into the scripted videos, which take a lot of time. And then I'm using DaVinci Resolve as the video editor, the free. It's great, but all the keyboard shortcuts are completely different to Ableton. So that's really slow for me to edit video because obviously I've got 15 years of Ableton shortcuts for cut, paste, undo, and none of them are the same in DaVinci. So my videos take much longer than the live things do, in a sense. At least this is real time, you know? I mean, it's quite nerve-wracking in the sense that say one wrong word and your career's over. Something. Who knows what day that will come, but you know. No, the live videos are quite good to do. I'm enjoying them. Thank you for all of your attention and love, by the way. Is there an ARP in here? There's certainly a high string. I'm not sure if there is an ARP, but we have whoops, that's the drum machine. Let me make another copy of our string over here. Let's delete the filter. So very high up we have, I can hear note 5. Above that, yeah, it's up here. We've got this melody here. Oh, sorry, that's there. I'm not sure if it's just at the end or if it comes in earlier, but there's something like this going I think I'm hearing that. There's a lot going on. The mastering's a bit mushy. I've ripped it off YouTube there, so it's not the best quality either. It's full of space monkeys, as I call them. You know, low bitrate MP3, so not the best. Yeah, I think I'm hearing that. Not that loud. And it's on more of a thin violin sample than what we have here. Do we have violins? Pure violins? Inside of Labs? Cello mood, strings 2, swells. Not Inside of Labs. I think you will have them. The BBC Orchestra, the other free one from Spitfire. go. Take all the bottom end out of them. I'm going to layer 2 up because those take a while to swell in. So I'm going to add a second layer of the spiccatos, which is the fast attack ones. That's spiccato. You only really see articulations on string instruments, don't you? DJ Clips was asking me about this once. What are articulations? My instant response was, have you been looking at string libraries? He said, yes. I said, yeah. The different ways of playing bowed instruments. Spiccato, staccato, pizzicato, tremolo, you name it. There's quite a few. So there's a layer, fast with the swell. Probably too realistic for dance music, to be honest. You want something out of what would be the classic strings? Korg Triton, maybe. I do have, by the way. What's the website? There's a website which gives you free samples from old keyboards. I think it's just called VST-Store. The website actually looks like it's from the 90s as well. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. VST-store.com. Is this appearing on screen? Yeah. So some are sold, but there's a bunch of freebies. And you can get them in sound font format, which is the format I showed to load into the TX16 sampler. Or if you're an FL Studio user, you can just load it straight into the sound font player. But look at these. Korg 01W, Proteus, the first Proteus. The JD990 was the rack version of the JD800, another classic synth. JV2080. And there's pages of these things. SY85, fun fact, was my first synthesizer. Yamaha SY85. Fond memories. I had no clue what I was doing with it, by the way, but that was young me. Look, Korg X5D is a classic piano sample inside the Korg X5D. This is worth grabbing. But yeah, while we're here, let me show you realistic strings versus old Rompler strings, because I've downloaded a lot of these. Unfortunately, the names of the patches are as they were on the synthesizer itself. And some of them don't give you a clue because they were trying to come up with interesting names. Let me load in the sampler. TX16. Free sampler. They're on my storage drive. Samples, Romplers. Remember the alphabet, Ben. There we go. Yeah, so let's try find a strings patch off the X5D. That would be very 90s appropriate, wouldn't it? $12-string is not going to be a strings patch. That's going to be a 12-string guitar. The big band is going to be brass. Clavinets. Digipiano. Ethnic orchestra. Fanfare will be trumpets, won't it? Oh, here we go. Full strings. Load U. Classic. Terrible in the best way. So they need a little bit of release, and obviously the keyboards back in the day caked everything in reverb and chorus or delay, or all three. Let's put some reverb on there for now. Tal Verb freebie. And we don't need that EQ bump, do we? That's fizzy enough as it is. There we go. Classic. It's a lot more vintage already. Tell you what, let's grab the drums from the end here. See if that all lines up for our own version. Yeah, that's not too bad with his outro drums. I think he's got a lot of reverbs and pads, repeating vocals going on in the background. Yeah, reverb's caked in. Sorry, the vocals caked in delay and reverb. And I think he has a vocal pad just repeating through. Sounds like on note 5 as well, same as the string. It could just be, yeah, it could just be the delay on the vocal. Filling lots of space with that. You can hear the remnants of it in there. Oh no, there we go. There's the vocal. It's going on in the background there. Na 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 na. You can hear it after the other one fades out. Buried in there. Obviously we'd need side chaining of the bass to get it out of the way. We can just use the STFU plugin for that for now. But I think that's pretty much... Let's stop that clicking by rounding off the edge here. Clicks occur when a waveform is reduced to 0 too fast, especially bass frequencies. Yeah, there we go. So without spending a couple of hours recreating Estel's drums, there's your track in a nutshell. So we've got the octave swaps on the bass. On a fairly simple, this is off now, FM patch. 2 sine waves. Being FM modulated. Whoa, CPU going crazy again. I don't think my CPU likes Vital on screen at the same time as OBS recording my screen. That's very interesting. But yeah, just 2 sound waves using FM. This this whole formant scale is just optional flavor. Again, pester me in the comments. I will upload that to the cloud. I've got a little patch folder going on for vital patches. Optional hype synth. Just the top notes of the piano line on a saw wave with unison. I am in the process of doing synthesis part 2, by the way. Going to cover what unison is, other things like waveform syncing, stuff that's not necessarily basically an actual, it's not got a synthesis name like subtractive or additive synthesis, things like that. These don't have dedicated synth names. These are just kind of features that appeared on various synths throughout history. Sync came from the Prophet or the ARP, if I remember rightly. Unisons, things about gliding modes, what this stupid legato classical term means, all that kind of stuff. I plan on doing a synthesis part 2 video midway through the script of that. Here's our string line, string layer, yeah, and our good riff. I like it. Is Phil still here? Is there anything else you wanted to cover on this track in particular? Or has that scratched your itch, as it were? Hi Ryan. Yes. Yeah. The saw synth is. It's just for the. Start again. I was explaining layers earlier. It's only in the last drop that they layer their piano with strings, which is more kind of actual strings I could hear. I gave this as an option for extra hype. You could either put a string layer up 1 octave, or you could replace it with a saw synth. Yes, it adds brightness. It's just for extra hype on the last drop. I didn't have it in there by default because they've got this high string line. You might find that's enough to add the energy to your last drop. You might not. But yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the saw synth or... I said if you want the more Pridsy vibe, you could just use a string layer up the octave. I deleted the bass notes out of the chord to keep it cleaner as well. Your bass is doing your bass. No need to kind of keep adding that up the octaves. Unless you're Avicii. A lot of those Avicii piano string layers were just like 4 octaves wide, weren't they? I think he kept everything in. So there's no rules. No right way or wrong way of doing that. If it sounds good, it's good. But yeah, that's if you want the... These are very quiet, aren't they? Let's try and crank these. So it's the Prids version. But yeah, either or, it's just a hype layer. There's Vital killing my CPU again. Doesn't like that, does it? That's terrible. I'm supposed to have 16 threads. of AMD's finest. Hello, Oscar. But yes, Ryan, regarding layering, I was on a little bit of I don't know if you were around earlier for the layer rant. I was explaining our example track here, Essel. They've only added strings to the layer for the last drop for hype purposes. Whereas the trap that a lot of people fall into when they're new to this is they layer sounds for the sake of layering because they think their sound is weak. And that causes lots of problems. So it's an easy trap to fall into. Usually better to just get a better source sound. Or better voicing, or, there's a reason. If you're tempted to layer because the sound's not good enough, it's never really the reason to layer. You want it always as like an aesthetic choice, like it is here. It's just to hype the last drop more than the first drop. Not to save the piano from being bad. That's why it's layered, because the piano's already fine. If that makes sense. Excuse me. But if you're new to this, I mean, that's just like a rule of thumb, because if you're new and your ears are still developing and you don't know what you're listening for, just watch out for that habit. Whereas if you do know what you're doing, layering can be fine. Like, some people add white noise to drums in very small amounts to add punch. Very dangerous if you're new to just have a go, but maybe, for example, you think the M1 is too dull and you don't like the Meat Beats layer because it puts it out of tune. Because I was mentioning earlier how pianos aren't tuned correctly. So layering them is dangerous. Maybe you want to add brightness to that because you're trying to solve the fact that the M1 is too dull when the drums come in. If you're going to layer intelligently like that, then that's fine. I'll give you an example. We grab our trusty, if I could spell it right, we would grab it. Let me turn everything off here. Right. So we could grab a Vital. Oof, there goes the CPU again. Bear with me. I think I need to check my buffer size. So maybe if you've bought the M1 is too dull, you could just add some high frequencies from the like a source synth or something, and make sure they decay. Oh my god. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me quickly check something. That's very high already. I'm having to use Fruity Loops driver to convert ASIO to Windows so you guys can hear me. I think it's not very efficient. Anyway, where was I? Let me move this to a part where everything's not playing back. There we go. So, and I have a brightness layer I could mix in with the M1. which in itself is useless. Oh, maybe not entirely useless, but... Or I could do that with white noise. Let's have a look. So there's an example of how you might layer for problem-solving purposes. But you have to do it carefully, because if you just want to slap sounds over sounds, because adding them together adds more volume and that fools your ears into thinking the sound is now better, that's just going to lead to a bucket load of problems down the line with your mix, basically. Yes, session view will show me all the... Oh, it's labs. Apparently labs is a CPU hog. Thanks for the reminder, Oscar. Yeah. It just seemed to happen every time I brought Vital up on screen, so I just thought the graphics might be confusing. Some kind of visual driver with OBS, which is recording my screen right now. Would you look at that? I wonder what's going on there. I don't remember Labs being a CPU hog at all. Well, it's free. We can't complain. Great source of... especially for pads, by the way. Yeah, I can always freeze it, yeah. Although Ableton's freeze doesn't truly turn things off, does it? You have to kind of freeze it, put the audio down, use the audio separately on the track, and then delete the original frozen track. Or else everything stays loaded in the background. Certainly for memory anyway, it doesn't save you any memory. Yeah. Anyway, we're coping. Well, no word from Phil, so I think that track is covered. I can't think of anything else I'd like to say on the subject. Does anyone want me to go back over any principles that we've talked about? How did I make the bass? The bass is it's an FM bass, frequency modulated. I don't know if you watched my synthesis video yet. So we have... Turn the sidechain off for a minute. Let me move it away from the bit where Labs is playing. So if I take the filter off, which isn't actually doing a lot right now, it's simply these two sine waves. We have one an octave upwards, and the first one is being modulated by the second as an FM source. That source is layered. anything. Let's look at our modulations. What's going on here? Oh, we've got some... so the After Effects, yep. Here's without. Multiband for... I was actually trying to get the multiband. If you have late attack on the multiband, you get that. You can add a bit more of pop, bit more of a pop to the attack. Not a lot going on in the EQ. I think I was trying to get the... That's going to depend on your mix. You know, how thick your piano is, how many strings you've got, all that kind of stuff. How many drums are in the mid range. Whether you need to pull these harmonics out, or whether you, in this case, whether you need to push these harmonics into the distortion is also a different sound. The distortion reacts very differently when that's... Oh, that's just clipping now, but you get the idea. That sounds very different to that. And for the classic FM house, now we've chosen Sinefold, which is actually just another form of FM. Sinefold is technically ring modulation, really. If you've ever played around with an FM synth, that should sound familiar, that noise. Not too dissimilar to doing this. So I'm just doubling down on the FM vibes there. Not actually, we're not actually clipping. This would be distortion in its traditional sense, but we're not making hard style. So we just the EQ's neither here nor there for this. Sometimes you can help the sound by clearing up the lows before you go to distortion. As you saw in my, if you saw the video when I recreated the acid from Higher State of Consciousness through the guitar pedal, that's how a lot of guitar pedals do their distortion. They get rid of the low end first. That way we're only distorting the upper harmonics. The traditional way of doing this would be to add an actual separate sine bass to do the actual sub-frequencies, to give us more control. So this would be the top character bass, and then we would just literally add a sine wave underneath for pure sub-frequencies, which we can sidechain off the kick more accurately. Something like that. Wrong tuning because we are -2. There we go. And then this one would get high passed. But yeah, just two sine waves, octave apart. One, only one of them is turned up. As you see, oops, this one isn't on because it's been, this is the effect. Slight bit of formant. I don't know why I did this. You don't need to do this at all. Not for classic house bass, because classic synths didn't have formant abilities on their oscillators. So this is just kind of a flavor choice. Seems to give it some upper character. Again, going to depend on the mix, whether you need those upper harmonics. The rest of the track. But the bass in a nutshell. What are some ways to make a song of your own from a reference? Never use the Vital Effects. Yep. I'll come back to you, Ryan, just while we're on the subject. Yeah, Vital's effects, if it would let you add more of the same, like double compressor or double EQ, or both types of distortion, so I could have sine and soft clip, I would use the Vital Effects a lot more. I use them more when I'm distributing my own patches, because then the patch sounds kind of more finished. You know, if you expect a certain lead to have reverb on it, for example, then I'm going to put the reverb on inside of Vital, even if it's not the perfect type. Just so when you bring the sound up to inspire you to use the sound, it's handy to have on there. The flanger is actually pretty good. I've used that in a lot of the more extreme basses, like in drum and bass things, and that comes in handy. The filters are fantastic inside of Vital, gotta say. But yeah, distortion is actually well behaved. Just, you know, I wish I had more options with it. The delay seems to be really hard to manage. The compressor is just OTT, but with the added value of having some attack and release control, which is handy. Again, when you go for more aggressive basses, sometimes this is really, really handy. The chorus is okay. It's a bit smeary, unless you really cut down the spread. But yeah, I know what you mean. The effects is I usually prefer to have control of the effects afterwards. Anyway, I do a fair bit of automation on the effects. It makes more sense to do that outside of Vital, unless it's part of the patch. Like sometimes you need the distortion before the filter, for example. And that filter needs to be part of the, you know, for example, if you're envelope modulating the filter, you can't do that after the fact. Well, not easily anyway. So sometimes that's why you need the internal effects. But yeah, I agree. Not always that useful. Ryan, right, so yeah, what are some ways to make a song of your own from a reference? It's a big question, but yes, you should always be referencing. Always be referencing from the very beginning. I don't know if you were around last month for my reference rant, but it's not just about the musicality or the structure. It's about adjusting your ears to a known normal. When I'm ghostwriting, the most valuable thing a DJ can bring to the table as a producer is to come into the room and say, I dropped this track last night and the crowd went mental and they've never heard it before. And that means straight away we've got a reference which we know works, A, in the club, and B, emotionally for the audience, right? So, and the DJ knows whereabouts. If it's a good DJ that plans their set, doesn't just put 12 tracks on in a row, that is not, you know, some DJs just turn up with a USB stick and the order is predetermined, especially when you get really famous, they get lazy. So some DJs will just turn up, play 12 tracks in a row that they've already predetermined, and they don't care whether the crowd reacts or not. The best DJs will watch the crowd the entire night, and if the floor is dying, they'll swap the track out before drop 2. Things like that. And they pay attention when things work and when they don't. So you can learn from the best that way, in the sense that if you know a track has a great arrangement and it works at a certain point in a certain DJ's set, because DJs have to take a crowd on a journey, right? It can't all be bangers. They can't all be high energy. Well, I think Skrillex tries to do that, but certain sets get pretty tiring from him, I think. But the idea is, if you know where it works, why it works, then reference it for that reason as well. When you're new and you don't have that information, or you've not witnessed it work in a club, you're just kind of going on fandom, really. If you just like the track, you just like the track, and that's fine. The best way to learn is by copying your heroes, certainly. It sounds like a cop-out, but I remember for years, when I was into rock, I caught a glimpse of one of my favourite bands in the studio. And in the effects rack, they had a virtual guitar amp called the Line 6 Pod. I spotted it in the rack because it had a red front. It was very distinct. And I knew they were affordable. They were only a couple of £100, a couple of £100. And I thought, ooh, if I get that Line 6 Pod, I'll sound like that band. So I bought one. And of course I didn't. And I made many of my own tunes. No, none of them any good. And then the first time I tried to recreate, I think it was Nirvana, doesn't matter what the track was, but I think it was just Smells Like Teen Spirit. I think the first half decent acoustic drum VST had come out called BFD, Big Effing Drums. And it sounded like a real kit. And I programmed up the chorus of Smells Like Teen Spirit on that drum kit. And it was the first time we could get realistic drums without having to record a real drummer. So I was all excited, and I recorded the riff and the bass line to Smells Like Teen Spirit into the computer, and it sounded really close to the record for the first time. And I was like, oh my god. And it was all on the pod still, the pod effect. And I think I did that 2 or 3 more times with a few of my other favourite bands. And every time I recreated someone else's song, it sounded a million times better than mine. And I don't mean musically, I mean like sonically. Oh, no worries, Phil. All good. Adulting is hard, isn't it? But it's story time anyway. You're not missing much. But yeah, the point was, every time I recreated someone else's song, it sounded much better than my own. Not just musically, like, it sounded more like the record sonically. Everything seemed to fit. And it took me a while to realise, well, that's because the way the chords are voiced, the arrangement, the lines, the melodies, they're just much better than what I was coming up with in my naivety. It took a long time to realise that. Because the other thing was, I don't know if it's just me because I'm stubborn, every time I would show someone one of my songs and ask them what the problem was, someone with more knowledge than me, they'd always tell me to start again. And it was so deflating. But I was always looking for this magic bullet answer of something I could fix on something I would already do, like something I'd already done that I could fix. Like with an EQ or some other magic bullet, is it just the mastering? Is it just this? And it never was the case. It was always the makeup of the song from scratch, where I'd placed the bass versus the kick, where I'd placed the lead versus the chords, all that kind of stuff. Didn't matter what genre, you make this mistake and you have this learning process. So back to referencing, yeah, if you just copy other people enough times, not the same track, you need a variety of influences. In any given session, I usually have about 4 or 5 references. And, the aim is like, oh, okay, we really like what's been done with the the build-up idea here, but we like the way this other track drops better. Can we make something that works to hybridize those two ideas? That kind of thing. So I would reference everything. I would reference structure. First of all, start by making one track as best you can, because your oral training is the most important part. Being able to hear parts, not just notes, but can you hear the difference between the bass and the piano, the low end of the piano, for example, things like that. The more and more you practice versus references, and I mean really picking them apart as well, like getting hold of EQ bands and just like what's going on between 200 and 500. Am I noticing anything, you know? What about the sub-range? Especially if you've not got great monitors or a listening environment. Shocking your ears constantly every 20 minutes is important. Your ears normalize after 20 minutes. So you have to reference or change something every 20 minutes, or else your ears get fixed. If you've listened to your track all night on loop, and then it sounds terrible the next day, that's why. It's because you didn't reference enough or swap. Whoops. Recording myself. Yeah. How you reference is just a very big question. My kind of overarching simple answer is just literally copy what you've got. And try and learn from everything that's there. You don't release the copied track, obviously. It's just there for learning. But what you can do is then keep the drums that you made that sound similar, because the chances of your track having a better bottom end because you referenced someone and copied their bass line is going to be better than you trying to make one up from scratch in the first few years of you trying. So copy what they've got, learn as much as you can, do the same with 3 or 4 other references, and then start to combine ideas. Take the piano riff, like for example this. Me and Phil have got the video lined up. We're still trying to get it to work because technology is being a pain at the moment. But Phil came to me because he's been using MIDI packs, and what I want to teach him is how to analyze MIDI packs that he already owns, that he's made tracks with, and how we can do our own versions of those riffs without plagiarizing. And just understanding things like the chord structure, this whole 1, 6, 7, 4 nonsense, that kind of stuff. Where we can change it to our benefits, playing around with rhythms, voicings, suspensions. Make it your own. Try different keys. But keep the structure. Because, especially if it's a big track, until you're actually a DJ out in front of an audience, it's really hard to learn why structures are kind of placed the way they are. It takes a long, long time to get an instinct for why builds are in certain places, why builds are certain lengths. So copying your references is the best shortcut to that until you actually get yourself out live in front of an audience, and then you start to see why certain structures work. So I would just copy structures left to right, outright. Lots of DJs do this, by the way. Especially the lazy ones that don't go out live themselves. But it's a great place to start. Because the other battling factor is where to start, right? I can't remember which DJ mag did a poll on the top 10 problems that music producers, EDM producers, have, and number 1 and number 2 were how to start and how to finish. Mr. Dolphin, yes, this will upload automatically, yeah. It will go into the live tab on the main page. So it doesn't go in with the main videos. You have to go across, I think it's videos, shorts, and then live. This will go live. But yeah, just get used to like the fact, you know, how I noticed there was a string layer at the end here versus the first drop, which doesn't. Being able to hear those differences, that's all part of the practice. Until you can get there with your ear training, it's all guesswork, right? So reference as much as possible, as many times as possible, for both your, you know, your ear training's sake in terms of musicality, notes and arrangements and stuff, and also your ear's sake in terms of tonal balance. So my ears, because we only have this one reference track, the first 20 minutes of referencing this track now, this is my tonal balance. My top end, bottom end, mid reference, the vocal level, everything. My ears will think this is normal now. So if it turns out Phil's reference of Essel, forgive me, actually doesn't work out in a club, we're a bit screwed. We might release this and it'd be terrible. It sounds pretty good actually, but you know, just as a example. What is the bottom end like actually? The club toilets test. Let's have a listen. That's okay. Pretty solid, yeah. Nothing too muddy. Kick drum's clear. I think that'll work out live. Sorry, tangent, but yeah, just reference lots of different things. The other thing that happens when you reference as well, if you have 4 or 5 tracks in a session, even piano house tracks, everything within the same genre, same tempo, very similar arrangements, you'll notice there's actually quite a wide range of sound qualities, like aesthetic balances you could go for. Some have the pianos really wide, some don't. Some have the bass up front, some don't. Some have a lot more sub than others. Some have really bright percussion, some don't. Some are quite dull tracks. And that's good to know because every YouTube channel on EDM mixing will have you believe that there's some kind of perfect answer to stuff. Like, here's how to get your drums to, you know, it turns out it's actually quite a wide range of, a wide acceptance range. The audience cares a lot less than other engineers do. And those channels are speaking to other engineers, it turns out. But it turns out engineers are a very, 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 very small percentage of your audience. Best example, does anyone remember House Every Weekend? I wonder if I still got it actually. Zowie. That was it. It was David Zowie. Have you heard the mix on this track? Anyway, big viral hit that was. Well, certainly in the UK, I'm not sure. You know, but I knew lots of engineer type people that laughed at that track. From an engineering standpoint, sound quality wise, it's not great. And it doesn't even work that well in the club. But it was a huge hit. And it's like, it's just a great example of, to show you, you can think way too much about this stuff. You need a good track first and foremost. Getting really picky about your chords, extensions, your sub-frequencies and all that kind of stuff isn't going to save your track. You need a good track first. So I wouldn't spend too much time on that side of it, because your ears just develop over time anyway. So, yeah. And you can help yourself by just referencing lots. Reference every 20 minutes. Or have an ear break. Things like that. Excuse me, I got a very dry throat. If you hear a weird slurping sound, it's this. I've got a bottle with a filter in it. I'm not trying to do ASMR, I promise. Although I did consider that bandwagon. I was thinking about doing a channel called Guitar ASMR. We just noodle on the guitar for an hour with lots of reverb and delay. I think that would do well, but I've not got any time. Anyway, yes. Tangent City, I know. Does anyone have any burning questions? What track, Ryan? Let's have a look. Feels good. GW Harrison extended. Let's grab the extended. Let's have a look. Is it the main mix? Yeah. Got some clangy cowbells or something in the top loop. Percussion on this one is not in tune, unlike the last one. That bell sound is kind of randomly ringing on there. No, they've not tuned that. That's something that would personally annoy me, but it's not a hard, fast rule. Let me grab the tempo. Oh, it looks like we're 125, right? You guys are so behind the curve. The kids want like 140 plus now. In the UK, it's gone that way anyway. I think we're about to see the return of Gabba. Gabba House. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I think that's why that's going to stick out a lot. So bass drop only. This bass sound is a classic. It's what I think it's called the Lately bass. If it's not a sample of the original, it's quite easily recreatable. Let's just grab a Vital again. We just need a stabby saw wave type thing. That sounds like a 1-4-5-6. What key? In B. So let's just go up to. Sorry, B flat, A sharp. I'm hearing. Is this correct? Yeah. Let's go down the octave. The bass part is made of 2 octaves. I can hear that. Why is my note gone so short there? Do 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 do. So it's. Whoops. Five. 7, isn't it? 5 and 6. So it's an octave jump between 4, 5. So all you would do is octave with an extra saw. We'll put them both through filter 1. Little bit of spike to this. I'll take this random phase off. Reverse the phase of the top one so they line up. There was a tiny bit of delay on there, wasn't there? Not going to get too close for now, but this... No repeats. I think the repeats were 16s. Something like that. It's got some room and widening things going on. Close enough for jazz, but those are that's your key. It's actually an A sharp, so everything's one up from this, but yeah. 1, 4, 5, 6 on this rhythm. What else have we got going on? Okay, so we got... Is another easy part to make. The pad. So we just take a saw wave. We can add loads of detune. Let's add 8 voices, and then you just throw that under a filter, steep filter. That will do for now. Now where is... We put our transpose over here. Sounds like the A is at the top. Actually, this doesn't change. So the chord voicing is going to be something like this. Here's chord 4. And then it was chord 5, chord 6. So that makes these this voicing. Anthony, hello. Hello, Kuldeep. What's going on? We're just catching up on a few requests to analyze some tracks. Earlier we did Essel Forgive Me. Worked out that piano line for Phil. Went through the musical principles, and now we're just looking at Ryan wanted to know what was going on inside G.W. Harrison's Feels Good. So just done the worked out the bass line, and I'm onto the pad. So let me show you the thinking behind. Is anybody here? There's a few. I know Anthony's here. I think Ryan's here. Purple Dolphin. Currently I have 14 watching, apparently. Is there a follow-up question? Do you only join streams with a minimum number of people to troll? Or something? Was that a serious question? I mean, what's the... what do you need to know? So back to Ryan's question. We're on the pad. So these are the chords for 1, 5, 6, 7, right? Sorry, 1, 4, 5, 6. And a very common thing to keep pads in the background is to revoice them so they don't jump around a lot. So what they've done is, or he's done, not sure if it's a he or they or group or... Anyway, the voicing is, we've put the 1 at the top. So we have this common tone across the top now. And then this one gets tucked below as well. And then this one tucked the lower octave as well. So we end up with note 1 as our highest note. That keeps everything kind of in this nice little pocket in the middle. So it can bubble in the background. That's probably why that decision was made. Either that, or sometimes you'll find keyboard voicings are just played like that because it's easy to play. Because all the notes are closer together. Saves you moving your hand too far, right? Oh, here we go. Here's the meat of the subject. Okay, I'm hearing a few sevenths and things. Let's work on this riff. This is more 90s style. We've got some left and right hand alterations. Let me myself. Oh, we need to go up one, don't we? Actually, so I don't confuse my previous track, I'm just going to duplicate this and transpose this up one. So we're now in A sharp. Right, so it's 1, 4, 5, 6. That's still the case here. Now we've got two different rhythms, left hand, right hand this time. So this one's doing this. Move early. Different direction to the bass. We're starting high, going low and climbing this time. They've probably done it the opposite in the bass because this A was too high in terms of bass frequencies. Right, so I can hear a G at the top. Same melody. Different voicings for different chords. So playback. Let's go to loop that section. It's not got the white noise over it. What else can I hear? Oh, that's interesting. There's a line in the middle there. I'm hearing this on the right hand rhythm, and then it stays here. Dun, 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 dun. It goes back down. What else is there? I can hear the seventh. There's a G, I think. Oh, that stays. Okay, we have a droner. That's providing the seventh for this chord. Am I too high on this octave? Yeah, I am. I think my bass octave's too high. Got to find the in-between notes now. Okay. I can hear this. Can someone explain what's going on? Welcome. This is what I do. Kind of. So, it's really hard to explain if you've not seen my video on chords yet. Are you a music producer, Kuldeep? Or a music maker, musician? That's the same again. In a nutshell, I've been asked to analyze this track, and I'm working out the MIDI, the notes inside the track, so we can then give a musical lesson on what's going on in the track. That's what's happening. Okay, that's the... There's a little bit of delay on there as well, filling in some gaps. Let's throw that on so we have some parity. Okay, we have a high string. As well. On note 3. Correct transpose. Really high. Higher than this string will go. So we'll have to make do with that one. It's a 2-bar loop, isn't it? So... I want to hear this track in mono. My suspicion is they've gone too far with the width of that piano, as usual. Pretty bad, yeah. Anyone can have a wide piano. There's a million plugins that will do it. You can just turn up the side channel. Or you can use plugins like Wider. Panagement, there's a million of them. Well, probably not a million, but... The only problem is, when you try and play them in a club, they completely collapse. So this track is for headphone users only, in my opinion. Nice little string line there. Why did they go too wide? Because they got greedy. Because everyone's jumping around the room excited that the track sounds great. And when everyone turns something up louder, everyone jumps higher. I mean in the studio bit. Everyone's getting too hype. And whoever engineered or mastered the track didn't care how it translated live. Or they know for a fact that the only places that they play have a true stereo club system. And they know it's going to work. But if you don't know your venue, which most DJs don't, then I would never advise going that wide unless it's purely for... So this is the extended mix, so this is the DJ mix. This shouldn't be wide, in my opinion. It's going to sound like this in most clubs. Not this. Surely most club systems are stereo. No, they're not. They can be a kind of pseudo stereo. I mean, it's the bigger the venue. Like if you're going to play at Ushuaia or Pasha or Amnesia, those systems are pretty sorted, but they've got all the delay compensation sorted out for the side of the room. If you play a small club and it's stereo, you get into other problems where people only hear certain things on one side of the room. So a lot of clubs don't do it. They fold to mono. But regardless, if if you're listening on TV, on your phone, on anything apart from headphones, this is the danger. The mix has completely changed. The central element, the piano, has disappeared. Sound bars. There's very few people have actual stereo systems these days, at home or club. They're all speakers that are placed too close together to be classed as stereo. So you get these cancellations, and it's something definitely worth considering anyway. You'd only go this wide for purely headphone users, in my opinion. String line, what was it doing? I'm hearing something. I think it's a 5145 on the string line. No, it's not. Oh, right. It's a 14771. Oops. Our piano is now way too far. Oh, it's just a timing clash. Oh, I think these actually move early. It's just because the string takes a while to fade in. I'm hearing it as I think the pad's in. This is the last drop, isn't it? Everything's in. They'd probably open that up a bit. Vocal hook pickup. Well, the vocal hook's nice and clear. There's a side effect of having a weak piano in mono. Let's steal the outro drums. And oh, something's gone terribly awry. Is this a vinyl release? There we go. So let's go over what the piano line is doing for... Yes, Grant, it's a trade-off, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's a Spotify mix, you can go quite wide because that's going to be mostly headphone listeners, right? But for the live mix, I wouldn't risk it. That's kind of my point. Yeah, personally, what I like to do... Well, in this case, we've got... the pianos I'm used to are mono at source anyway, like the Core Game 1. I mean, if they're stereo, it's because of just panning of notes. But so we just take the mono... You either choose the left or the right, or the mono signal, whichever you think sounds best. And then you can add width with plugins like this, Voxengo Stereo Touch, which is mono-compatible with. The way it does it is something called Haas delays, which is just very, very, very short echoes, which our brain doesn't perceive as echoes. It perceives them as a part of the original sound. But what it then does is swap the phase of each Haas delay in each ear. So in mono, they cancel. So you don't get any change to the mono signal whatsoever. But just to go over the piano line for Ryan here. So obviously we can see the bottom notes. We got our 1, 4, 5, 6. So that you can see the 1 is just a standard 1/7 stack. It's a 7th chord. 1, 3, 5, 7. What happens on chord 4 is just, again, it's a 7th. This would be the normal voicing for 7th. There's your D 7th, D minor 7. But the voicing is, the 7th is underneath to keep this common tone. And then here, here's our chord 5, but it doesn't have the 5th note in it. This would be... which is always an option. I didn't hear that in there, though. Let me just have another listen. Is it definitely not got note 5 in there? Oh, I think I heard it now. Now I've listened for it. Ah, no, I can't hear it there. I think it's in another instrument. Oh, it's the pad, isn't it? It's in the pad. It's in the pad on the last drop, that's why. Yeah, so it's not in the piano. But you don't need the fifth of the chord if you don't want. As we said earlier, the relationship of the chord is based off its root notes and the third. That gives you all the information you need to know, whether it's a minor, major, or other. So our chord is basically this is your seventh chord, right? This would be the seventh stack of chord 5. So we've deleted note 5 and the seventh again has gone underneath. Again, probably just to keep all this neat and keep these common tones in check. Or like I say, if someone actually played this in live, those are much easier things to press because they're all close together. Our last chord is just a straight chord 6. Just normal chord 6 there with the voicing of the fifth being underneath. No seventh on that one. Yeah, and a bit of the left-right hand thing going on, where we've got different ones bouncing off each other. Very 90s, that. Very 90s. So, I can't remember who I was speaking to in the comments about the differences between 90s house and modern house. Was it you, Ryan? I can't remember. Anyway, that's a great example of a modern hybrid. Because it's doing the 90s left to right thing, but it's keeping some of the common tone thing going on as well, which is more of a recent thing. A string lines, nothing too clever. It's 1 and 4. Instead of going 5 and 6 here, they've chosen... this would be 5 and 6, right? E, F. They've chosen the harmony notes above in the chord. With a line like that, and it's so high up, you don't really have to think too hard about whether it matches the chords or not, really. That's so far away from the harmony. You could actually do what you like up there, really, as long as it sounds cool. Yeah, nothing major on the bass there, just holding down the roots. Mostly sticking to the right hand rhythm of the piano, not the left. So these left notes are used to bounce, not to solidify. You'll notice by the choice of where these are placed, they're more like the right hand than they are the left hand. In terms of piano hands, let's call it low and high for a MIDI sake, because we're not playing live. Yeah, we went over the pad. That's the gist. Ah, hello. Delilah, yes. Delilah. How do you pronounce Delilah? Or do you not? Not really ready to stream, but need some tech advice. My old laptop is a write-off, and now I'm stuck between Mac versus PC thing. Oh, God. Would you recommend one over the other? If so, why? Oh, don't make me go down the rabbit hole. Well, you know what? The Mac Mini is a tremendous bargain now with the M1 chip. Apple used to overcharge, right, for the sake of design. When Apple was run by Steve Jobs, yeah, Gaz is going to say, Gaz is going to say Mac. So Apple under Steve Jobs, they were happy with very, very niche designs and only like 2% of the market share. Whereas Tim Cook wants a MacBook in every coffee shop. He's actually now reversed the philosophy. Mac is more like Windows than Windows used to be, like in terms of trying to take over the world, right? So the prices have come right down. The only downside to Mac is the lack of freeware. My favorite freeware manufacturers are not on Mac. That's the only downside in my opinion. And the upgrade cycle that they lock you into, the ecosystem. If you're not using Mac Mail and an iPhone and all the rest of their tools that have to stay up to date with one another, it's a bit tough. Because at some point, something will insist you upgrade for the other thing to work, and then all of your plugins and music stop working. What happened to you, Gaz? Tell us the full story. Because I already know. What stopped working? Was it all the vitals? I can't remember. Shh. I'm not saying PCs don't have problems. I don't rate Microsoft at all. It just happens to be the more open operating system. And that comes with all the caveats of sometimes there's a lot of jank. You know, being the nerd I am, I would probably be a Linux user if there was more music options on Linux. That's kind of where I would go. I almost left Ableton for Bitwig for that reason. Back when Ableton was really doing my head in, around version 7, version 8, it was getting very... it was suffering from a lot of feature creep, shall we say. And some of the designers from Ableton left to make Bitwig, and I thought that might be the solution. But I had too many sessions in Ableton, and Bitwig had no way to convert the sessions across, which I thought would have been their biggest way of exporting users, but they never supported it. So in the end, I had too many paying clients that trusted my ability to recall older sessions. More for your money with a custom PC. Well, I don't know about custom. I've just bought a little thing called a HX90, which is a by a company called Minisforum. It's just a mini PC. It's about the size of a Mac Mini. Not as powerful on the graphics side, but certainly very powerful for the money. But the Macs have the power edge. Now the M1 chip has come about, definitely. Where you lose in price is on the software, yes. And I'm not just talking about the music. There's usually some utility plugin, you know, that like a calculator, something basic crops up that you need, that you think you would just be able to download a free app of, and some reason on Apple they're all heavily paid options for some reason. Calculator's a bad example, but you know what I mean. There's always something you need at some point. There's always a free option on PC. Not necessarily the case with Apple, but the Apples are definitely more powerful. They didn't used to be around the Intel era. They used to be in the IBM era. Mac G4s before IBM. Not so much now. I mean, sorry, not so much after that. But the M1 chips are phenomenal. Especially if you're doing any video editing, it's a no-brainer. But I just use so much freeware because I like to stake them. I share sessions with so many clients. The freeware makes total sense. And because the freeware is usually not doesn't have to be installed. You just drag the plugin into the folder, right? Things like that. So it's just very easy for anyone else to keep up with my sessions. And unfortunately, that's less of an option on Mac. So that's the main reason. Yeah, beat and delete's got the same. Yeah, it's the update cycle that keep you in. It's very dangerous. I mean, to be fair to them, it's so much better these days. It felt like you couldn't stay up. You couldn't not update every 6 months. About 10 years ago, or else you were really out the loop. And when they changed from IBM to Intel, I had so many music clients that lost plugins for years. Like Spectrasonics, one of the biggest, the people who made Atmosphere, Omnisphere. Anyone who used their amazing suite of plugins, which was Stylus, the drum module, Spectrasonics, Omnisphere, the pads, and Trilogy, or Trillion for the bass, which was pretty much in everyone's roster at that point. Everyone was using those plugins. Anyone who swapped to an Intel Mac lost those plugins for about 3 years. Whereas what they've done with the M1 and the compatibility layer has been, fantastic. Grants software. Outlier for being a software developer. You think? I think in the music space, most people that code, as far as I'm aware, especially because I'm so active on the freeware scene, most of the people in environments like Juice, Python, even just C++, or they're in Visual Studio and stuff like that. They're all PC developers actually making the plugins, which is why you end up with more freeware on PC, I think. But maybe that's not the case in other industries. Yeah, Purple Dolphin. I think your only consideration is compatibility, right? Who do you need to be compatible with? If it's just you, if you could pick up a Mac Mini on a bargain, I might go that route. Depends how much software you want to run. I think in long term, it's cheaper on a PC, even if it's not for the initial purchase nowadays. Oh, we've got some data from Jamie. The Intel iMac runs better than your M1. You mean regarding music software or in general? The other thing is regarding the music industry. Yeah. Plugins inside the Logic. And that's Core Audio as well, you see. So you wouldn't think that would be the case. But I think the case with, you forget how small the music software industry is, right? It's actually a very small kind of collection of people. And the companies just don't have the resources to fully up tools and change to a new format overnight. So you do find it. I presume most plugins at this point are still running on M1 compatibility type layer instead of natively on the silicon. Yeah, well, oh, that's the other thing. Don't get me started on Mac support. If any of you have watched Lewis Rossman, you'll never want to buy an Apple product again. But yeah, they'd rather, their business model is to tell you to buy a new one. So-called environmentally friendly company. Not that support on a PC is easier. You just end up down a million rabbit holes on forums. But it's usually there. You usually get to the bottom of it. And you don't have an official representative of a company saying, it's not fixable, just buy another one. Which is Apple's attitude 99% of the time. Yeah, Jamie. I know Gaz in the chat jumped from Logic to Ableton, but that was because of me. I'm a filthy influence. But no, I think we make music quicker in Ableton than... I used to be a Cubase guy. And Logic, when it was Logic 5 before Apple bought it. But less in Logic than Cubase. Yeah, racks in Ableton. I thought you could make racks in Logic. And assign them their own macro knobs. Anyway, no definitive answer for poor Purple Dolphin there. But hopefully, yeah, I'm biased. I'm on PC personally. That's my biased opinion. So take that with your own experiences and the testaments, the testimonies of the chat here. Oh, Beaten Delete wants to go doorless. Ableton before version 1. Wow. I bought in around version 4, the first one that had VST support. I tried Traction for a while as well. Any DAW that didn't try to pretend to be an analog desk was a draw. The good thing about Ableton is it acknowledges you use a mouse to make music. And you'd be surprised how many DAWs don't really do that. I think all hardware is extremely fun. But I have to produce between 4 and 6 tracks a week to make a living. And as inspirational as hardware is, I would love a Nord Stage, by the way. I still want that keyboard. I think they're incredible instruments. As inspirational as hardware is, it's a time factor. Ableton is so fast from idea to finished production. I usually manage a song in a day, no problem from idea. Usually a couple of songs in a day myself, if I'm just on my own. But even with producers, song to finish release in one evening is really possible. The only revisions are when we get A&Rs from record labels saying things like, could you change the vocal in the second chorus because I need my say? So, Waldorf Blowfield, yeah. You know what though? Since Vital came out, I've got very little desire for many synths because Vital covers so many areas. Unless the synth is doing something truly bizarrely unique. Like what was I'm a big fan of happy accidents if you can get them consistently. What was the synth called? I think I've uninstalled it. There was a synth that had pendulum oscillators. It created oscillators using a very strange maths technique, using dual chaos theory, pendulum swinging kind of maths. And it was kind of never the same twice. That kind of thing interests me. If it's genuinely bonkers. Does Vital sound better than Serum? You know what? I've never really A-B'd the two. They sounded pretty similar to me. The main difference was Vital was free. And you can grab Serum's wavetables. Well, you can grab wavetables from anywhere. I've grabbed the wavetables from Ableton's own wavetable synth, Massive, Serum, put them all into Vital, and off you go. Filters are better, right? Yeah, I mean, I do love the filters in Vital. In fact, I don't think if it wasn't for the ladder filter option, I don't think I'd have got as close to the higher state of consciousness acid sound as I did in the tutorial. When I started playing with the resonance of the ladder filters, the old Moog style filters, Moog. Used to say Moog in England, don't we? It's never been correct. Moog filters, yeah. The resonance of those was bang on for that sound. Anyway. Big up from Liverpool, says Josh. Thank you. Welcome. Although you've kind of just caught us at the end here. Chatting nonsense. What time are we on? Hang on 1 second. How long have we been running? Oh, I didn't realise I'd pressed record. Apparently we've been live for 3 hours 38. Recording for 2 hours. I must have accidentally hit record. Yeah, 3:38. Okay. Well, that will explain why my tummy is rumbling. Did Ryan, did you need anything else on the track breaking down? Was there anything you didn't understand? It was Ryan who requested the G.W. Harrison, right? Cool. Fantastic then. Okay, well, I'll upload this for people to learn from. We went through Essel Forgive Me. And G.W. Harrison Feels Good. Great choices, guys. Thank you for those. Great riffs. Very appropriate for the channel. Good spots. Yep. Thank you, Purple Dolphin. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Dalala. Thank you, everyone who popped by. Oh, Paul Wolford and Special Request combined, did they? Nice. I thought Special Request was going to spark a new rave scene a few years ago when some of that stuff he was bringing through was absolutely classic. No worries, Jamie. Thank you. Life things. Oh, warmed up for Bicep, did they? What a gig. Nice one. Oh! It's Paul Wolford, his Special Request, of course. Of course, yes, sorry. I forgot that. How do you forget that? Yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot. Thank you for the reminder. At this rate, that'll be one a month. I remember. I learned last live stream that John Kong was Left Wing and Cody. Thanks to Phil. LPG Orbit, right? Okay. It's going on the list. There we go. And that was Grant. Just putting names next to all these so I can remember who asked. Sweet. Josh would love a breakdown. Is this for breakdowns? Yep. Martin Ikins, you. It's a pretty simple one, yep. You can do that on another session. I think that's what these live streams might become, is the noteworthy sessions, because I don't really have time midweek now. Well, I haven't done the last 5 weeks. So this is probably the best time to do them. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, no worries. It's going. It's going to be uploaded anyway. You can always watch it at your leisure. But thank you for the support. I'm going to leave you and love you all. Okay, Ryan, I'll put that one on. Yep, oscillator. No worries. Oh, sorry, you were replying to Josh. Either way, good to know. Wicked. All right, guys. Thank you very much for a great stream. I'm going to go munch. Peace out. Yeah. Okie dokies. Bye bye.